Hello, my name is Joshua Rudd with Ruddshomefarm, and today we're going to be talking about why you should not grow lavender with hydroponics. If you want to learn how to do hydroponics, check out my free 11-step guide on how to get started with hydroponics on my website, Ruddshomefarm, link in the description. And if you like any of my equipment behind me, go ahead and check out my website where I got all of my indoor equipment listed there in case you want to get what I got. So let's get into it. All right, guys, so this is the #1 search term on my website since its inception. People want to know how to grow lavender with hydroponics. And sorry to say, it's just not a really good idea. So let's break it down why. All right, so #1, lavender takes a long time to grow. I got some information here. It takes 14 to 21 days just to germinate from seed. Now, for reference, I'm growing some lettuce behind me in that tray right there, and it took less than 12 hours for the seeds to germinate. There's also cherry tomatoes in there. Those took less than 24 hours to germinate, but lavender could take up to 14 to 21 days just to germinate for seed. I grow most of my plants, all of my plants, with seeds because I tried introducing plants from the outside into my hydroponic system and there was nothing but bugs, and I couldn't kill the bugs without using chemicals, and I don't like using chemicals in my hydroponics as far as pesticides and herbicides. That's kind of why I do hydroponics, is so I can get fresh fruit without pesticides and vegetables. Anyway, so days to maturity. Okay, so days to maturity, it's from seed. If you were to grow from seed with your 14 to 21 days of germination, then it would take 2 years, almost 2 years, for it to be able to harvest some lavender off of it, or even for it to flower. So that's a long time. But now if you were to transplant an adult plant into your hydroponic system, then that would still take about 90 days to do that. Now, for reference, you could transfer like an adult tomato plant and probably harvest within the first month or so. This hydroponics is not really made for lavender. There's a lot of issues with long-term plants that are kind of permanent like lavender. So you got to clean that reservoir, like wherever it's at. Maybe I'll show you a picture of how thick my tomato roots are. You can kind of see how big my tomato plant is. That's only about 2 months or less. But anyway, so it's like you got this big root ball and you need to get in there and you need to clean your reservoir, or else you'll run into a lot of issues with pH balances, nutrient concentrates and dilutions. You know, it's the salt lockout. It's a problem. You have to flush it and wash it, and it's not the case with potted plants or if you have them outside. And it's just, hydroponic really shine when the days of maturity is less than 2 months, because within that period you can remove the plants are done, you clean your reservoir, and you start fresh with new plants. That's really how hydroponics, in my opinion, is most efficiently used. Also, other reasons is that within that 2-year period, you have to have a perfect condition for hydroponics, for lavender. So the issue with the hydroponics is that hydroponics conditions can change, whereas outside the soil conditions takes a long time to change. Hydroponics changes often rapid and quickly. So for example, let's say the water dries out. There's no water in the reservoir. Your plants will die within a couple hours. You know, if you forget to water your plants, your house plants or something, they're good for a week or two with no water in there, because there's like very micro traces of water that the roots can suck on. But I've seen it. I've forgotten to water it, and I leave and they're all up and perky, and then I come back and they're all drooping and, you know, looking like they're dead. And if you do that with lavender, lavender is a very delicate plant that doesn't like that swinging conditions. You can mix a bad batch. You might put your pH too low or too high, and then bam, plant's dead. You know, and so on and so forth. You have to keep a good condition for over 2 years. That's a big deal. So, all right, so let's move on to the next reason. Lavender is big. Like English lavender, Munstead. I think Munstead is like the smallest type of lavender, and that's still about a 3-foot radius in a circle, maybe like a 3-foot semicircle ball. And that's fairly large for our hydroponic systems, because most systems, hydroponics is either done inside or in a greenhouse. And that is due to because hydroponics is difficult outside because you can't control the temperature, and therefore your reservoir may overheat. So if you got your reservoir of liquid out in the sun when it's hot out, you know, that could get near boiling. And then once it gets near boiling, your plants will just can't handle that, and they'll just die. So hydroponics is mainly done indoors or in a greenhouse. All right, so even though lavender is a bush, it is a fairly delicate plant. Therefore, it likes these sandy, kind of dry soil, and it loves stable conditions for a long period of time. And it cannot get that with hydroponics, because you're cleaning or taking the plant out to clean the reservoir, putting it back in, moving it around and stuff like that, and changing the pH. You know, when you make new batches, it's not the exact same. It's just, you know, lavender really doesn't like that. And I'll show you some pictures of showing you how my lavender turned out when after a few months in, I started killing them just by the not making the right batch, or could be any reason, any host of reasons, but there's a picture. Number 4, lavender is not profitable. So the amount of light, if you were to grow indoors, and the amount of nutrients that you would have to feed lavender would absolutely outweigh any sort of money that you could gain out of growing this plant. Like, hydroponics is the absolute worst way to grow lavender if you're trying to profit from it. Okay, lavender deserves to be in the ground. Okay, and you need a lot of it. So you need like acres of lavender, and then get a big machine and just harvest a field of it, and then get your essential oils or your flower buds and stuff like that. But it belongs in the ground. It's a bush. Bushes belong in the ground. Bushes don't belong in pots. Bushes don't belong in hydroponics. Okay, so like flowers and stuff go in pots or something. But again, fine. The best kind of hydroponic plants grow quickly, don't need a lot of light, and are not annual. Examples: lettuce, kale, celery, herbs like basil, cilantro, tomatoes. You know, tomatoes is kind of on the far end, but you know, it's more of an advanced grower. It's flowering, it's a whole different dynamic, but you know, that's probably like the biggest you want to do is tomatoes, peppers, stuff like that. You know, stuff that's a season and then it's over. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I helped you kind of clear up whether you wanted to try out lavender and hydroponics. I would not advise it, but hey, guess what? Hydroponics is all about trying stuff out. So if you want to try out hydroponics, then please go ahead. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check out my free 11-step program and checklist to start with hydroponics, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.